Welcome to the Band Advice Podcast, the Matt and Mark Show. At least that's what we're calling it right now. My name is Mark, and this is...
Matt, how you doing?
Doing well, man.
Good to see you.
Golly, it seems like forever since we've hung out together, but then again, it doesn't, does it?
Right, man. It's the same old thing.
I just realized the other day, it's been 26 years.
Wow.
26 years since I answered that fateful little hand-drawn bulletin of yours in Wentz Hall about starting up a band.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I was 2 years old then.
Yeah, exactly. Me too, right? Yeah, we were a bunch of hoodlums. But yeah, that's kind of the thing. Matt and I have been playing together off and on for 26 years. We've had our fair share of successes, fair share of fights and stuff, and crazy antics that seem to always come along with this business. So, but you know, it's all good. So, yeah, it's all good. So yeah, 26 years ago, you know, you put that flyer out there. I was kind of doing the acoustic stuff, and I was going to play down at Willie's. So I called him up, says, hey, do you got an acoustic guitar? Let's put together a couple songs. Do you remember the 3 songs we did at Willie's that night?
Let's see. It had to have been... I don't remember.
Melissa was one of them.
Okay.
I remember that one. Lodi. Little CCR.
Oh, yeah,
Lodi.
CCR.
And I know we did an Eagles tune. I was trying to remember if that was Peaceful Easy Feeling or Take It Easy. I'm almost thinking it might have been Peaceful.
Yeah, it was one of them.
But we did those 3. He lent the vocals and lead guitar. I did the rhythm and some harmonies, and it was a good old time.
Yeah. Stillwater was cool then. You know, that Willie's was down there on the strips where Garth started playing, and when I got down there, I was just like, man, I want to get out there and start playing, and so I had my roommate make that flyer up and hung it down there and all over the residence halls and stuff. And I got some doozies, people calling me, but you know, I met Mark and it was like, hey, what are you doing Tuesday night? Let's go down to Willie's. I'm like, what? We're already going to be playing here? I'd probably been playing, you know, I guess I was 20 then, so I'd been playing probably.
How'd you get into the bar if you're 20?
Oh, you know, the FBI let me in.
I see. That is a story for another podcast later on. So I'm sure we will cycle back through that at some point in our career.
That's crazy.
But yeah, we did that, had a good time, and then about a week later, you called me up, says, "Hey, they got this new cappuccino bar that's opening up. Sweet ideas, right?"
Yeah, the coffee shop.
And they were looking for some acoustic musicians, so we went down and we auditioned, and I think we did the same 3 songs. And I remember Sam.
Oh yeah, the manager.
Sam, the manager. He was also a musician, but he's a little animated. We'll just say he was animated.
He was animated.
He really enjoyed what we were doing, and I do remember him saying, well, how long have you guys been playing? And we were like, been playing together about 2 weeks, and he about fell out of his chair.
Yeah.
I swear, he just like, 2 weeks? But it worked out great. I mean, we ended up landing, that fall, we had landed probably about 4 or 5 gigs there. Then that next spring, we were every other week there and every other week in another coffee house. And we did manage to get a paying gig at Willie's, which happened to be election night when Slick Willie got elected.
I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember that.
All 5 people showed up because they thought there was going to be a big crowd come in after the polls closed. And it's like, it's Tuesday night. Come on. So we got that gig, and I had a good time in Stillwater.
Well, I remember getting the gig at Sweet Ideas. It was like, okay, and we only got maybe 3 songs, and they're wanting us to play for 2 hours. And so I remember, ditching off some homework just to be able to memorize all these lyrics and do all this stuff. And it was kind of like, for me, it was the first time I'd ever really played like an acoustic type band, doing a lot of the lead singing and stuff like that. Prior to that, I just played guitar, and that was when I was really kind of getting my sea legs, is to be able to play and sing and that kind of stuff. And so it wasn't perfect, it wasn't probably even much of it very good, but I mean, it was good enough to play at the college coffee shop and entertain people for a couple of hours.
That is true.
And, that's just something I can't stress enough is like, if you want to do this, you got to go out there and do it.
Mm-hmm. Got to get in the trenches.
And I feel like, okay, I can sit in my room and play songs, but when I go out there in front of people, it's a whole different story.
Absolutely.
And that really helped a lot because we got a lot of performing experience in a short amount of time.
That is true.
And, then I guess it was like the end of that year, you moved back up here to Tulsa, and we played, a few gigs. And
yeah, because about 2 years later, we did reunite, because I think you were winding down your college career at that time. And, yeah, we played a couple gigs, and then you were focusing on your band, and I was, I don't know what I was doing.
I think you were up here working a Mohawk.
That's right, yeah. I was trying to earn enough money to get out of mom and dad's house and, writing songs and things like that. And then I guess it was, early 2000? You started playing down at the, as a friend of mine called it, the taco stand. It was down at the River Parks.
Oh, yeah,
and you were playing there, and I'd come down and open up for you, and you finally twisted my arm to put the band back together. Yeah, we had about a 3-year stint where we were just, almost every week we were playing just about every dive bar in this town.
Yeah. One thing was cool was like when we did that deal, I was playing mandolin and you were playing guitar and singing, and Steve was playing bass and Marf was playing bongos. It was a happy hour gig.
Yeah.
Warming up at the half yard line?
The half yard line, right.
Yeah, that was fun because, you get in there and you play an hour or two and then you're done. And then, I'd hang around for the headline band or whatever. But that was cool.
That was a good time. We didn't make any money doing it, but we did get a couple of free beverages out of the deal. So,
which was important to me at the time.
Absolutely. When you're a poor working musician, a free beverage goes a long way. So.
Yeah, sometimes all the way to Tulsa County Jail.
Oh, well, once again, that is for another podcast. Rock and roll lifestyle, I tell you, it's crazy. It's crazy, the stories we could tell, Mr. Ditch Boy. And one more subject for another podcast.
Yeah. But, when did we start recording that stuff out at my place in Catoosa there? That was, like 2000.
That was 2001, because I remember we were, we had gotten some gigs around town, and we played at the Blue Rose, which was a really cool, uppity, we call it the doctor and lawyer motorcycle bar.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a place that, it was on Brookside, and that was the place to play, and we landed a gig there, but it just happened to be on September 11th, 2001. So we went out and did the show. There wasn't a whole lot of people there. And what was their excuse? Oh, you guys didn't bring in a lot of people.
Well, see, here's the thing is I called them before we went down there. I said, listen, I've seen what's happened on the news. Have you seen what's happened on the news? This was 9/11. Our first gig at this, place on Brookside. And I asked him, I said, are you sure you want us to come down there? I just think the country is under siege, and I think that people are going to be really sticking close to home on their TV. And, looking back on it, we probably should have canceled that because when you go into a new place, you want to go in there with the cards stacked in your favor.
Yes.
Number one, it was Tuesday night. Number two, it was what's going on in the United States. Oh, my gosh, what has happened? That was kind of a sidestep we should have sidestepped. Instead of going forward. And you just don't realize that one at the time. You just, you go with what they say. Well, at the, after it was like, well, you didn't bring anybody down here and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, that's kind of de rigueur of a lot of these things.
True.
You've got to go in there and have the cards stacked in your favor. And that was not one of those cases.
No, it was not. So, but yeah, you had the studio, because I remember us spending many all-nighters there trying to think, well, should we write some sort of patriotic song or things like that? And it's just, everything seemed kind of forced as far as that was concerned.
Yeah.
So, but you wrote some good tunes. You and I wrote some good tunes together, some that have even appeared on your CDs.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah,
that was
stuff.
We did a lot of stuff there, and I was thinking about that on the way down here. I was like, I still got those ADAT machines. I still got those ADAT tapes.
I do too.
And we probably got, I'd say there's a dozen songs on there in various states of completion. And, that was like a bunch of the stuff that we played when we opened for America, McCain's Ballroom there. That was like 2002.
Yep.
When we did that. And I remember playing, Good Friends and a Bottle of Wine, and what was the other one? life is foggy since then.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, and I was like, I was thinking about that. I was like, man, we should finish that up and get that out there because
sure.
I'd like to hear it at least, nonetheless. See it sounds like.
Well, I've got a couple ADATs laying around here too in various states of decomposition, I would think by now.
Yeah.
I don't know what it would take. I have an old Pro Tools rig that I finally decommissioned too. It was a 2001 Pro Tools rig.
Oh, wow.
In fact, I can't even find a PC to run it on anymore because it has to
amazed.
run on Windows XP.
I'm amazed at technology, how it goes.
Oh,
you know?
sure.
I'm just really amazed. And it's like, because back then I was more hands-on to it,
Mm-hmm.
When I got that ADAT and you got that other ADAT, then we started, trying to record stuff out there. I got all that equipment that we were using live, and I was more hands-on. And then later on, I started working with some other people that handled all the tech part of it. And now I'm just amazed at the way things have gone. The way things that were real expensive and state of the art now are just boat anchors.
Oh, no doubt. And you can't find anybody. It's like, I saw a guy on Craigslist trying to get rid of a couple of his ADATs.
Yeah.
And he says, come and get them. And I'm like, hey, if you find somebody who wants them, I've got 2 more they can come and get from me too.
Yeah,
so,
right. Well, I think, maybe one use for them is like a kind of a patch bay type thing.
That's a possibility.
Where you're running in and then you're running out. And then, they've got those light pipes out and stuff. And that might be beneficial in some ways.
Mastering,
Yeah.
possibly.
And
But
so I'm not really exactly sure, but, it's funny because I remember those ADATs. Remember when Daddy-O had that thing in Stillwater?
Yeah.
He had a little studio in the back there. And I remember it was like, man, he's got an ADAT. Those are like $3,000.
That's crazy.
And then, later you can't give them away.
Right. Now we're doing everything on GarageBand, which comes free with your Macintosh. Isn't that crazy? And it's got 10 times the power that those ADATs did.
Yeah. Well, even when I got that, the HD24, which was the hard disk recording.
Oh, yeah.
Next generation of the ADAT. My friend Les bought that machine in like 2005, and it had been out for a couple of years, but it was still pushing a couple of grand, and it recorded on those hard drives that were like, I want to say it came with a 40 gig, and then
That's pretty intense back then.
yeah, and so it was like put the hard drive in this little carrier, and it goes in there, and you had 24-track digital. And man, he recorded a lot of stuff on that for us. And then later I tried to use it again. Well, heck, you can't even buy the hard drives that size anymore.
Right.
Then so you try a bigger hard drive that you can buy, and it throws up all these error codes. So technology is it's a real albatross around my neck. I know, because I just want to make music, and the technology gets in the way, and keeping up with the formats and all this stuff is a real challenge, I feel like.
Sometimes, because I work in the software business, and I'm always this guy, it's like I want to build the next big application and stuff that we work on. But the company tends to be like, well, why don't we just farm it out? And it's like, that drives me nuts. But I can, in a way, kind of see it's like, you got these people that are experts in building this particular software to do this thing. Granted, yes, I could do it, but wouldn't it sometimes make more sense just to let the professionals do it? And that's, I kind of see where that can go with us too. It's like, let's spend time doing what you do, and that's making music, and let somebody else worry about the mixing and mastering and things like that.
Yeah.
Especially with my ears as old as they're getting these days. But
well, it just sometimes helps to have another set of ears.
True.
And then the other thing is, just like any business, it's like focus on what you're good on.
Right.
Focus on what you are good at, your core competencies. Focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
Then be able to delegate the other things to people whose core competencies are website development,
right,
mastering, or any of those kind of things like that. You can do it all yourself. You certainly can, but I feel like to keep it flowing good and easy, it's like you got to kind of assemble a little team around you to be able to do it all. It's just hard to to do everything yourself is possible, but it takes 10 times as long a lot of times.
Yeah. It's definitely a lesson I'm learning now as I'm trying to get my music out there, and I'm doing releases and things, and just the hassle of getting it registered with Sound Exchange and getting this out there and that out there, get it on Spotify. Then you got to even get out there and try to talk to people, put it on their playlists, and get it out there on YouTube and the whole social media thing. It's like, man, I just want to record stuff and I want everybody to listen to it.
Right. Well,
how do I fill in that piece right there?
Yeah, making the product is just all that is a ticket to the top of the next trailhead.
Right.
I mean, you can make an album, And then what?
Right.
Okay, then the real work starts.
Sure, absolutely.
And so that, and like you were saying, hey, send a message to these people that want to review it. Send a message to these people that want to put it on a playlist. Promote it here, promote it there. How do you do that? How do you get the most out of the resources that are out there? And, it's like, man, it's like wrestling a 10-headed monster, because there's so many directions you can go. And next thing you know, you've sat there all afternoon and, well, I've gone down this rabbit hole of this or that or the other thing. And you're like, well, what was I trying to do in the first place?
Exactly. No doubt.
And so it's really a challenge. And, just having 1 or 2 or 4 or 5 other people, I mean, anybody that's doing this with any kind of seriousness, they've got other people working with them, for them.
Right. And that's the benefit with the record labels. They had the people on staff to do it, and they could assign 4 or 5 projects to each person instead of having one person that you got to pay to handle this one project. And that was kind of thing we saw, throughout our 26 years. We saw the explosion of the indie label. Now, indie labels have always been around, but usually they've been with more of your off middle of the road, not your middle of the road stuff, your blues or your jazz and things like that. But, with the hip hop and those guys and Rick Rubin, man, you really saw indie labels come into this, but they had to be battling the same problems, because now you got the staff of people, but you only have 1 or 2 products that you're really pushing. It's like, how do you finance that? How do you keep it going? And, the indie guys always try to, I got the impression, I haven't dealt with them, but I always got the impression that the indie labels were a little more fair to the artists. I would hope so. But that comes at a cost, because they're not going to have the staff and the reach and the budget to get international.
And, those indie labels, a lot of them got absorbed by the big ones once they started making enough noise.
Right. I saw something about that the other day, too. In fact, where the indie labels are actually kind of using it like a launching pad. It's kind of like, back in the 20 years ago when the whole microbrew thing started taking off, and, Miller and all those guys were buying up these little breweries to be the small microbrew, and they even launched one called Plank Road Brewery, which is just a shelter, and there was Miller beer that was being marketed as an indie thing, and the labels are doing the same thing. They'll have an artist, and that'll be kind of the artist development. They'll put them on this indie label and see what they do, and see they can be a little more edgier and stuff. And
yeah, definitely. The bigs were all about the mainstream consumption.
Right.
So Nirvana was on Sub Pop.
Right.
Okay, and there was a big underground scene. There still is in the Pacific Northwest, and so Sub Pop got absorbed somehow later on. But they made, I think, their first couple albums maybe even on Sub Pop, and so Sub Pop was just one little operation doing it on their own.
Right.
DIY. I mean, putting out flyers. Calling people at zines, booking their artists, trying to get anything they could get out there and, promote what they were doing. And, it was different then as opposed to now, as just how it all goes. Now it's not so much that you really need that, and when I went to meet him in 2005, it was like, I was just, my whole image of the whole industry was really shattered. It was really changed by just sitting and talking with some of these people at labels that I felt like, wow, any band on this label is probably doing really well. And what the answers was surprising. It really was. One label told me that, okay, we've got 60 artists on our roster. That means that we don't have the funds nor the manpower nor the capacity to put out a record for each one of our acts every year. And so we got to pick the 5 or 6 that we want to work on this year, and it's going to take some buy-in from them as well as buy-in from us, because we feel like these are 5 or 6 things that are really going to be able to launch us further along. And, some of these other ones, they're still in development. They don't have maybe a lot of, time to go and hang out with some band in Lafayette, Indiana and say, hey, this is real good, but when you go into the studio in a year, we want you to have this tighter. We want you to make some cuts here. We want you just don't get that. And so as a result, it's good for the fan and it's good for the band, because you got to, it's a little more unbridled, I mean, when you're working at at major label level, especially back then. It was not quite as doomsday cutthroat as it was before the internet really came around, but it was still, it was like, if this tanks, somebody's job's on the line.
Right.
And so they were real concerned with, making the best product with the least fat they could. And so some stuff got through the cracks, but, a lot of great music came out that way. But the indie thing is really important. And now it's like, I always tell everybody, man, it is the greatest time to be an indie artist, and it's also the worst time to be an indie artist.
Yeah, because, the thing is that the internet changed a lot of that, as you alluded to. We no longer we don't have to press, you don't press vinyl. You don't have to press CDs anymore. I mean, you can go digital on all this stuff, and you can do just the singles instead of having to come up with an entire album.
But if your fan base is 58 years old,
you're going to want to have something you can handle, right?
I mean, you're just not, they don't download stuff.
Sure. It's going to be hard to sell them a little card with a QR code on it to scan when you're at your gig too. People want stuff in hand, and I know you and I are talking about doing probably our next podcast about how you're approaching it and I'm approaching it. But because as a DIY artist, you do have several different ways of going about stuff, and like I said, it depends on your fan base.
Yeah, and it depends on kind of like what you want. I've been like this year, I've just really been watching out there, just what are these bands doing that I like? What do they do? Okay, well, a lot of them are putting out vinyl, and they're with the vinyl you get a download card.
Right.
Okay, and then if they got a little more money, maybe they go ahead and press a few CDs. CD pressing has come down so drastically in the last. It's amazing what it costs. It's just nothing now.
What is it running these days?
Well, I mean, I looked at I think it was Easy Disc, and you can get 100 CDs in sleeves for like $100.
Okay.
Just a little paper sleeve. You provide the artwork, you design the paper sleeve, and it's cardboard paper, whatever. I mean, and so as a result, I mean, there's no such thing as a $20 CD anymore. I mean, right. It's amazing what you go by and you see. It's like $4.99 in the store. It's like, so right. It's brought down the price of CDs, but I mean, I don't sell a lot of CDs off the bandstand anymore. I mean, it's just not the same as it was back then. It just isn't. And I guess if you're maybe going after the younger people, they don't own anything.
No,
they want to listen to it on YouTube, or they might download it this week and
then subscribe to a streaming service.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's just really different how people get music, and what our job is to figure out, well, what way is the best way? Well, you just don't know until you don't.
As soon as you figure it out, it'll change.
Exactly. And so, getting it out there online, getting it out there on YouTube, getting it out there on, all these outlets for music. And that's the cool thing is, it's not like all the gates have been busted wide open.
Oh, sure.
I mean, and that's good and bad.
Right, because now you got everybody running through those gates, too.
And so now, you could go down here at Guitar Center a couple miles away, and by 5 o'clock, you could have yourself a little rig and go home and have an album finished in a matter of time, and probably burn a CD right there and, get it out online, whatever you want to do. And so it's the good and the bad. But,
sure.
It's our job to figure out, well, what is my fan base, and where are they, and how do I reach them, and how do I get them to, support me and my music? The other thing is just trusting people to like understand that, hey, this is the way things are now. And I mean, I try to, like, any band I like, I'll buy their record.
Right.
And so I'll buy the record, but I may well listen to mostly on YouTube or their website or their Bandcamp or their or now when I'm at home, I'll bust that album out, and it's colored vinyl, limited edition. I love stuff like that.
Sure,
I'm a sucker for it. I love it, and so it's different that way. And so you almost got to, like, playing the music's one thing, then marketing the music's another. I mean, there was marketing departments at all those big labels. There's marketing departments in any company, that, and they work exclusively on marketing. They're not working on writing songs or getting the musicians together, any of that. They're working on how can we sell this? How can we tie in this record store in-store when they're playing in Dubuque, Iowa? That's what they're working on,
Sure.
But now you get to do it all yourself.
Right. And that's the headache there.
It is. And it's possible, but it is just I spend inordinate amounts of time doing that very thing.
And then trying to make sense of the analytics as well. It's like, why am I getting here 2 days after Christmas? Is my Christmas song still getting played in the Netherlands? Hey, I'm glad the people in the Netherlands put it on their playlist, but it makes no sense to me.
Well, I mean,
well, I've been to Amsterdam, so I guess it does kind of make sense to me.
You know, well, this thing is about, you know, like, because I grew up in the Catholic Church, and so they celebrate those feasts of the Epiphany until like the first week of December.
Oh, okay.
And so I remember playing We Three Kings and stuff like that, you know, January 6th, 7th, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, so everybody's still in the Christmas mood, the Christmas spirit. So I think it's safe to
fair enough.
understand that, you know.
Well, every spin gets me a half a penny, so I'm okay with that.
Hey, man.
I'm about to be up to a $2 air.
Hey, all right.
All right. Well, I mean, we're getting close to the end of our time here, but I do want to see, you know, what's your prediction? You know, we talked about what it was like when we started, what it's like since we've been going, what we've been doing. What is your prediction now for the next, heaven help us, 26 years?
Wow. I mean, I think technology is going to continue to dictate how people get music, how people listen to music, how people perceive music.
Mm-hmm.
I think technology is more and more, I mean, it's like, it's so strange because it's like, it's the best and the worst. That's all I can say, you know. It's the best in the way it's like, hey, I can do a record. I don't need David Geffen to come tell me it's okay and give me $600,000 I have to pay back at 14% royalty rate, which they're going to fudge that too.
Sure.
I don't have to wait for that. I can make my own album and do my own thing, and that's cool. It's great. But the worst thing is, it's just that everybody else got the same idea, and it's hard to rise above the din, you know. And you got to spend a lot of time doing that. Mm-hmm. As much as doing the music, you know.
Do you think there will be such a thing as CDs or purchasable media anymore? Or do you think it's all going to be streaming?
Well, one thing I really like is when artists put out like, hey, here's a custom thumb drive.
I've heard that. Yeah.
And, you know, we'll load it. We got it loaded up with, you know, all this cool stuff, and it's whatever it costs. But then, you know, every so often you can plug this thumb drive in and access our website, and we'll have more stuff for you. So it's, you know, they call it like the living album.
Okay.
So it'd be like, you know, okay, here's 5 live shows and, you know, 10 unreleased songs, and it's such and such amount. And then every so often you can plug into their website and access, you know, other material just for this one price.
That's cool. I like that idea. A subscription model.
Yeah. And then, you know, it's just like, there's so many different thumb drives you can get. It's shaped like anything you can imagine, and so that's pretty neat. I
was doing some research on that, but now you're back up into the cost factor, because you can't get these thumb drives. I mean, unless you buy in super uber bulk, you're not going to get them less than $7 or $8 a shot. So now you're pressing CDs again. I mean, is it ever going to be simple to put out music and not have the overhead of that? I mean, you can do the DIY streaming only kind of stuff.
I mean, I remember when CDs first came out, you see those ads, disc makers would, you know, those ads, and it was thousands of dollars to press a CD. And you had to do like, you know, 500 minimum or something like that, or 1,000 minimum.
I got a box of about 472 left. So,
yeah.
Because I had that 500 minimum. So.
Yeah, so you're like, you know, now it's not so much like that. I mean, a tower, you can get a tower, you can do it all yourself, and you know, I don't know that I looked last time I looked into that, doing it yourself, doing the duplicating yourself and all that kind of stuff was just as expensive, if not more, plus the time and then, you know, the effort into doing it all yourself.
Well, you're dealing with CDR versus an actual glass press CD too. So, you know, there's that perception of, is this really a real one or is it a copy? So
yeah, well, I think nowadays people don't really even make that distinction a lot of times.
I don't think people buy CDs anymore.
I think that, you know, maybe so, maybe not, but I just feel like, hey, you know, everybody's got an album, everybody's got a CD of some sort, and it's, you know, you can call it a CD, you can call it an album. It doesn't have to be, you know, master level quality, you know, and so that's, like I said, one of the big challenges is it's just rising above anything, whatever your genre is. Go out and listen. Right. There's 10 reggae bands who are unknown to the rest of the world who could be famous. Yeah. There's 10 death metal bands. I mean, it's just any genre you got. There's numerous ones that are like, wow, you know, these guys are just every bit as good as any sort of well-known band in their genre, and they're just guys like you and I doing it somewhere in this world of ours, you know. And like I said, that's the cool thing about it too, but it's also the hard thing about it.
Yeah. All right, so you're predicting that technology will keep going and providing new opportunities and stuff. My prediction is that you won't buy stuff on CD anymore. In fact, I seriously doubt if people actually buy music. I think they're going to just lease it. They're going to stream it. People do that with cars these days. Nobody really wants to make a long-term commitment, and even though it's only 99 cents, there's still that perception.
All right.
It's like 99 cents. Well, you can buy a cup of coffee for the same price of buying five songs off of iTunes. Nobody balks at buying a cup of coffee, but 99 cents a song. What if I don't like it in 10 days?
You know what I've learned too? People afford what they want to afford.
Oh, sure.
And they do what they want to do.
Right.
And there's just nothing you can do about it.
Right.
And so, like deeper into it, it's like what I've been sort of trying to school myself on is like marketing, but not marketing. You've got to make these super fan. You're trying to create a super fan. And you're trying to create, I just figure, hey, if I had 2,000 people around the world that loved everything I did and were interested in everything I did, that's all you really need to make a decent living at this.
Right.
But you have to like appeal to them in ways that aren't just buy my shit, And that's sort of showing you in different light, not just, hey, buy this, buy this, buy this. It's like, hey, here's me hanging out with my buddy Mark doing a podcast. Hey, here's me driving down the road. Hey, here's, and you got to kind of like get them hooked into like
the whole Kardashian thing.
Your slice of life where they might be inclined to, hey, I've got all my catalog on sale for one low price right here, right now. After 10 videos they see, they catch on to some reason. Maybe they become a super fan. And so, you're making music for them, for the people that want to hear you, who are interested in what you're doing. And that takes a little bit of thought.
Sure. And so the key is finding those fans.
Yeah.
And how do you get them? How
do you do it?
And how do you keep them, too? Because people's taste in music changes. And, the songs they may like listening to now in a couple of years, they may just be over it. So
I just think it seemed like, to me, just after all those years of teaching and everything, dealing with people of all different ages, I think nowadays, the younger audience, they kind of like focus on one thing for a while. Mm-hmm. So, okay, I'm going to download this song because I heard it on my friend's podcast on SoundCloud. Okay, I'm going to download this song. I'm going to obsess about this for 2 weeks. Then I'm going to hear something else, and then I'm going to obsess about that.
Right.
So it's not like you and I were like, how many times have you listened to Pink Floyd The Wall?
Oh, gosh.
How many times have you played, Led Zeppelin 1? I mean, we're talking like hundreds, millions, I mean, I've had them probably all in 4 formats at least, And
do people even really listen to music? I remember being a kid and I'll come home and I'll just lay there and I'll put my headphones on and just lights out and I just listen to the song. I listen to different parts of it. I think listening to music today is very passive. And I, as an adult and constantly on the go, I find even myself doing that. Yeah. And there was a couple weeks ago, insomnia or whatever. So I just put headphones on, laid there, and I just listened. And man, it's like, wow, I miss that.
Yeah.
I miss just sitting there and immersing yourself in the music and stuff. And I think that today's generation just doesn't do that.
It's a social accessory.
It's a quick instant, hey, here's this song, give me my 30 seconds of fun and move on to the next tweet.
It's a social accessory.
Right,
and as musicians, it's hard for us to realize that music isn't everybody's life.
What?
I don't understand
don't
it
do
either.
That to me, man.
I don't understand it
hope
either.
for society.
But music is not everybody's life, and so they're not listeners like we're listeners.
Right.
They may think they are and purport they are, but they're really not.
Sure.
And you got to let them believe whatever they want, and just accept the fact that it's a changing world, and there's a lot of stuff going past everybody's eyes. And how do you get up above that?
Right.
That's the question. That's my prediction is anybody that can figure that out, they'll be successful at it.
All right. Well, that's I think that's about it for today and for this podcast. I appreciate everybody dialing in and listening to the inaugural run of the Matt and Mark Music Hour, 30 minutes or so. I don't know, we'll come up with some sort of cool name in the future. But anyway, welcome to the Band Advice channel and the Band Advice podcast. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel for other assorted stuffs, and there will be a link for the Patreon account if you wish to donate. So thanks a lot, Matt, and look forward to our next conversation.
Right on, man.
Peace.